Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Pro Fantasy Rodeo Picks, the bull riding edition, and this is one that I am probably most excited about because I think it is the best opportunity for you to take advantage and get an edge on the rest of the competition, on the rest of your fantasy group who is maybe not watching this video. So, watch this video. We're going to break it all down. We are presented by Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. They are our host hotel for all things 2025 NFR, so we are very appreciative of them for one, sponsoring that video, and two, hosting us, like I said. And so, I mentioned right away off the top that I think you can get a big advantage in the bull riding, and that is because of a couple things. One is just the variance of how many bulls guys will ride. There's going to be a group of probably 4 or 5 guys who will ride 4 or 5 bulls. So by riding 4 or 5 bulls, they will make more day money, of course. They will make more average money, and they will increase their chances of winning some of that ground money as well. Additionally, there are things in the bull riding where maybe more so than any other event at the NFR, yes, the timed events, things get a lot faster and the start is different and that crowd feels like they're on top of you. But you can go in the course of a PRCA season, you can go a couple days, weeks even, without seeing a 22, 23-point bull. At the NFR, you're seeing nothing but bulls marked 21 through 23 points. So it's not only what your riding percentage looks like, what's your average score look like, but how do you do against those high-quality bulls? Because we do see every single year guys who didn't maybe have the best riding percentage during the year do terrific at the NFR. Guys who maybe rode a decent amount of bulls throughout the regular season, they're not quite ready for the adjustment of riding 10 of the baddest bulls, 10 of the rankest bulls, 10 nights in a row. So again, more so than any other event, I think it's just a different ball game in the bull riding at the National Finals Rodeo. So with that being said, we're going to run through 1 through 15 like we always do, but I will say there are some guys, no disrespect to them, it's a huge accomplishment to make the National Finals Rodeo. It is something I personally will never do. I will never know the feeling. But there are some guys that just statistically do not profile well enough to maybe be drafted by your team, which means we might go by them a little quicker. So I apologize for that, and I encourage those guys to prove me wrong. I would be delighted if they did. But again, we are focusing on where our bread is buttered and where we might want to build our team and who we might want to build our team with. So with that disclaimer in place, let's go down the list 1 through 15, starting with Wacy Shala. And I'm going to start with a bit of a surprise because I would stay away from Wacy Shala. I'm just going to say that right from the jump. Yes, he's number 1 in the world. But when you are picking a guy who is number 1 in the world in any of these events, that is a quarter of your budget. So you better be dang sure that they're going to be one of the best 2 or 3 performers. And you better be dang sure that they're going to win you $200,000 because it's going to take $150,000 to $200,000 per event to win the money, win your league, whatever it is on here. And with Wacy Shala, yes, he's number 1. Yes, he's made a lot of clutch rides. Yes, he's made a lot of great rides. Yes, he has won the most rodeos in the PRCA, tied with Stetson Wright. But he didn't have a great showing at his first NFR, so he's yet to prove it in the Thomas and Mack. And he rode 45% of his bulls this year, which is good, not great. That ranks 8th among NFR qualifiers. And so when you look, especially when you look right behind him, and you've got a couple world champions and a guy like Tristen Hutchings who's been an NFR stud, it just does not seem worth the money to me to take that first pick on Wacy Shala and spend that $150,000. Stetson Wright at number 2, he's $140,000. He is a different story. Because again, 4 or 5 of these guys, I predict. I would say, top of my head, 5 guys total are going to ride at least 4 bulls, and I'll say 2 will ride at least 6 bulls. I think of anyone in the field, Stetson has the best chance. I'm not going to guarantee it, but he certainly has the best chance to be a guy who rides at least 5 bulls. We have seen him ride 8 bulls at the NFR the last time he was healthy in 2022. And remember, it has been a long, long time since we've seen Stetson Wright here because he went out in the 2023 finals. We saw him get on 2 broncs and 1 bull, but he got on them, but you could tell he was hurt. You could tell it was tough for him. He sits out the entire year, so he misses all of 2024. So it has been a while since we have seen the magic that Stetson Wright brings to the NFR. And I think he's going to bring it again. And I think the stats back it up. because he rode 63.6%. That leads the PRCA. He had an 86.74 average score. That leads the PRCA. 29 rides of 87.5 plus points leads the PRCA. You see where I'm going. 85 plus point rides, 40 of them leads the PRCA. 90 point rides, 13. That is the most I have ever seen. I don't know if it's the most ever in a regular season. That is the most I have ever seen in any rough stock event ever for a regular season. And if we go right after Stetson, we go to his good buddy, Qynn Hamilton. And Qynn Hamilton, if you're not taking Stetson, look long and hard at Qynn Hamilton, because if you're down to your last 130,000, you go, oh man, I missed out on Stetson. Do I need to move things around? I don't really think so. I think you can just take Qynn, probably get some similar results, because with Qynn Hamilton, you're looking at a guy who rode 57% this year. You're looking at a guy who was second in average score, the only guy who wasn't Stetson to have over 86 points per ride. You're looking at 87.5 point rides. He had 27. Stetson had 29. So they're basically even there as well. And then you look at rodeo wins, 12 for Qynn, 16 for Stetson, 90 point rides. Weissichala does have 11 of those, by the way, so maybe that's something to consider. But Qynn Hamilton has 9 to Stetson's 13. So profile's pretty similar, and Qynn has covered 6 bulls each of his last 2 national finals appearances. So keep that in mind. Who has proven they can ride over 50% here? Because as I mentioned at the top, it is just different ball game, different gravy riding these bulls at the NFR. Number 4, Tristen Hutchings. And I think if you want to take Tristen Hutchings, I think he's a good pick. I would ask yourself this, though. This is what it would come down to if you're not taking Stetson Wright or Qynn Hamilton. You have to ask yourself, if you want to take Tristen Hutchings, you have to ask yourself one question. Will he ride more bulls than Qynn Hamilton? If you believe the answer is yes, then I would take him. If you believe the answer is no, I would not take him. It varies on the stats what might happen, because he's got a chance to. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm not even saying it's above a 50-50 chance, but he definitely could. He's been to 3 NFRs. He's covered 5 bulls at 2 of those NFRs. He's placed top 4 in the average twice in his career. His first NFR, he won 4 go-rounds. Last year, he led the PRCA in 90-plus point rides entering the NFR. Granted, Stetson and Qynn weren't there, but he, outside of maybe Weissichala, is your best 90-point threat. And so those are all the things I would consider. Again, if it's not, it kind of goes right down the line. So I mentioned you might not want to take Weissy, but if it's, okay, I'm going to get Stetson, well, do I think Qynn can be better than Stetson? If I think Qynn can be just a little bit better, or even with Stetson, I'll take Qynn there. If I don't believe that, I'll take Stetson. Same deal applies there. Do I think Tristen Hutchings can be within 1 bull of or even with Qynn Hamilton? Yes, well, then I might take Tristen Hutchings and save my $10,000 budget. But I would feel comfortable with what I laid out with Stetson Wright, Qynn Hamilton, or Tristen Hutchings. At number 5 is TJ Gray. And TJ Gray entered the NFR number 1 last year, so he's proven he can ride bulls at a really, really high level. The problem, though, is he made $184,000 this year. Tristen Hutchings made $292,000. And so the drop-off of $108,000 is just too much for only $10,000 on your fantasy team. If you were comparing Tristen Hutchings and TJ Gray as maybe the 4th-ranked and 10th-ranked guy, that would be a different story. But just, that's such a far drop-off when you think Tristen Hutchings made $292,000, Qynn Hamilton $317, Stetson $350, Weissy $352, and then you got TJ Gray at 6th at $184. It's just very clear to me that the top 5 in the world standings over the course of the regular season, not necessarily for the NFR, but just over the course of the regular season, were just head and shoulders clearly above the rest of the field. That being said, at number 6, I would look at Hudson Bolton. If you're not taking a guy from the top 4, Hudson Bolton would be the next guy that I look at. Because with Hudson Bolton, you're getting a guy who has been to the PBR World Finals before. And you're getting a guy who's finished in the top 10 in the PBR before. And you're getting a guy, you talk about the pressure of the NFR and getting on great bulls. Well, this guy was 2nd in the PBR World Finals this year. So he knows what it takes to ride great bulls. Granted, that's over 2 weekends. That's 8 bulls over 2 weekends, not 10 in a row. But in terms of NFR rookies, that's the PBR World Finals are the best look you're going to get to compare yourself to the NFR. So if you stack up 2nd with the PBR guys, And then in the PRCA, you ride 54.1% and you ride 48% of your high power bulls, your NFR quality bulls, then you've got a really good chance to make some noise. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if Hudson Bolton rides 5 or 6 bulls, because he did it at the PBR World Finals. He can do it at the National Finals Rodeo. Then we go to Hayes weight, and Hayes weight just kind of falls in the category of, to me, does not ride enough bulls. Rode 38.6% this year. That ranked 13th among NFR qualifiers. Made 41 total qualified rides. That ranked 13th among NFR qualifiers. And in terms of riding against high quality bulls, he's 15th among 15 NFR qualifiers in that stat. So we go to J.R. Stratford. These next two guys are pretty similar to me. And they also profile pretty similar to Hudson Bolton in a lot of ways. But you look at J.R. Stratford, and he just covered everything this year. Rode 58.6%. But if you look at his summer run only, that's closer to 70%. So from the middle of June on, he rode close to 70% of his bulls. He was terrific in the summer run. He's in the top 5 amongst those high quality bulls. He's 4th in average score, 5th in 85 plus point rides, 5th in 90 point rides, 3rd in wins. So J.R. Stratford ranks number 8, but he profiles as a top 5 bull rider. And a lot of that has to do with the fact of he went home for September. So if he would have had a big September, he could have come in with $250,000 if he would have been at Puyallup, Pendleton, Governor's Cup. So he did all of that without riding at any of those massive September rodeos. Again, he does well against the high-powered bulls. He was close to 60% for the entire regular season, close to 70% for the summer run. Ranks top 5 in wins, ranks top 5 in average score, ranks top 5 in 90-plus point rides, ranks top 5 in 85-plus point rides. So good value with J.R. Stratford. Qynn Andersen, same kind of deal. He hasn't seen the UTB finals yet, but he was at the PBR teams finals, and he rode his last 3 at the PBR teams finals, so he's done well with some pressure there. 5th in riding percentage, 52.1%, one of 5 guys over 50% this year. And I think it's important that him and Hudson Bolton are still very much in this rookie race. So even if he has a situation where he might be out of the average, out of the world title race, he has more to ride for down the stretch than a lot of guys, which means in rounds 9 and 10, not that anyone would quit, but in rounds 9 and 10, he's going to be super locked in probably. Same thing with Hudson Bolton, which I think increases the chances of snagging another $25,000 check and taking yourself from 5th in the average to 3rd in the average, maybe. All those are very likely scenarios to me. And he won Greeley and Cheyenne too. So some of the biggest rodeos this year with the best competition that you had to be good for extended periods of time. Qynn Andersen did just that. Now, I apologize to guys 10 through 13, but I'm going to go through them pretty quickly here. Jordan Spears, he placed in 4 rounds in 2019, but only placed in 2 last year. Those are his last 2 NFR appearances. Rides only 36.4%. Just, I don't think he has the riding percentages. I don't think he'll ride enough bulls to get it done. Same thing with Bryce Jensen. Same thing with Mason Moody. Same thing with Raleigh Johnson. They all ride between 35 and 40%. And again, when you're comparing them to Stetson Wright or Kai Hamilton or Tristen Hutchings or Hudson Bolton or even Qynn Andersen, all of the guys I named, riding 35% for the regular season is just, it's not going to get it done. It translates to 2 or 3 bulls over the NFR. I'm not going to use my cap space on a guy who I think is only going to ride 2 or 3 bulls. I'm going to pick a guy, who I think is going to ride 5 or 6. Then we get in Jesse Petrie, who I know I don't want to make it sound like I'm harping on only the PBR things, but Jesse Petrie is a first-time NFR qualifier, and I think that's a big advantage over Bryce Jensen, Mason Moody, Raleigh Johnson, who are all also first-time NFR qualifiers, is he's been to 3 PBR World Finals. He has seen what it takes to consecutive days get on really, really good bulls, 22, 23, 24-point bulls, because again, over the course of the PRCA season, you don't see as many on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis of those 22-point bulls, of those high-powered bulls. And at the NFR, 60% of them are high-powered bulls like that who are going to be 22, 23 points that if you do your job, you will be 87 or 88 points. So I think Jesse Petrie, just from the PBR World Finals, has that experience. He has seen that. He also does just look a little better than his stats. He's 14th in the world, but 10th in riding percentage, 12th in average score, 11th in 85 plus point rides. And then at number 15, if you want to, I wouldn't usually suggest this, but if you want to have a good value bull rider, a flyer maybe, if you will, Luke Mackey might be the pick. And I should say a flyer in the bull riding. I'm fine with flyers in some of the timed events where there is kind of more of that consistency from guy to guy. Usually I wouldn't recommend this in the bull riding, but with Luke Mackey, I think I would. He rides 45%, which I think that's really interesting because Weisi Shaw is number 1 in the world and rides 45.8%. And Luke Mackey's number 15 and rides 45%. So you can get maybe, I don't know, obviously, but you can maybe get the same amount of bulls from Luke Mackey as you do from Weisi Shaw, which is obviously huge at number 15. But also, in addition to that 45%, he's actually tied for 5th against those high-powered bulls. And again, all these stats are coming from Pro Bull Stats. When I mentioned what a high-powered bull is, I should shout him out. I should shout him out for that because very, very good job by Slade over there and his work that he does. But that is his classification of high-powered bulls is where I'm getting that, just for the record. But 37% for Luke Mackey against those high-powered bulls. That's not something you would expect from the 15th ranked guy in the world. And also 64 qualified rides. He has made the whistle more times than anyone this season. So he can ride the really good bulls. He can ride all of the bulls at the same clip as number 1 guy in the world. And he has seen and made more qualified rides than anyone in the PRCA this season. So again, with the bull riding, I wouldn't have expected this even before I started my research. But once I got into it, I thought about it and I thought, man, if you are thinking about building a roster where you allot your big money in other places, Luke Mackey could be the guy for you. And maybe is the guy for you because even of everyone else I recommended, he's $60,000 cheaper. So quick review of who I would take. If you're going top tier, if you're going top third, which is kind of how everything splits up. You know, you want some guys from the top third in each event, some guys from the middle third, some guys from the bottom third. Top third, I would look at Stetson, Kai, and Tristen. Middle third, I would look at Hudson, JR, and Qynn Andersen. And then bottom third, I would look at Jesse Petrie and Luke Mackey. So that is something else to think about too, is kind of what pools are you drawing from in each event. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you got a good taste of what you might expect at the NFR, because I do think, like I said at the top, the bull riding, I'm not going to say the easiest, but the bull riding, there are more stats available than any other event that tell you, in my opinion, what the National Finals Rodeo may look like. So if you watch none of these other videos, just know you maybe got the best one right here in the bull riding, which we appreciate you sticking around and making it all the way to the end and joining us for our fantasy picks. We're going back to the top of the rough stock later today in the bareback riding. Some more fantasy picks coming this afternoon. Then more content next week into Thanksgiving as we just barrel on 2 weeks out until the 2025 National Finals Rodeo. So thank you for joining us on Pro Fantasy Picks. Thank you to Virgin Hotels, and we will see you later for some bareback riding before we see you next week on the US Cowboy YouTube channel. Follow us on social for all things US Cowboy, all things NFR. We will be here until and through December 4th, previewing everything you need to know heading into Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us.